I'm ashamed to admit that I didn't play Ori and the Blind Forest, the Metroidvania platformer developed by Moon Studios and published by Microsoft in 2015, until just a few weeks ago. I wanted to review the sequel, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, but I figured I would go back and check out Blind Forest first, and wow, am I kicking myself for not playing this game sooner. It's not only a gorgeous game with an engrossing atmosphere and narrative, but also a tightly designed action platformer with the right balance of player capability and fair challenge. And I'm happy to say that Will of the Wisps brings more of the platforming goodness while adding in new features and ramping up the difficulty. Ori and the Will of the Wisps takes place not long after the events of Blind Forest, as the forest spirit Ori and her family, including a young owl named Ku, are living together in peace. One day, Ori and Ku fly off to a realm known as Niwen, but a storm forces them to crash land and survive in this unfamiliar land, meeting friendly faces, exploring the world, and dealing with the giant owl creature Shriek. Will of the Wisps continues the same narrative principles introduced in Blind Forest, creating a balance of dialogue and exposition mixed with character actions and aesthetic storytelling. It's just as engaging a story as Blind Forest, perhaps even more so here because of the fleshed out world. This game introduces a bunch of characters to talk to, most of whom will offer Ori services in exchange for Spirit Light, and they make the land of Niwen feel much more alive. While Blind Forest mostly focused on the platforming aspects of Metroidvanias, Will of the Wisps fine-tunes the gameplay mechanics and introduces new ones to make it more like a traditional Metroidvania. The setting is still one large world divided into sub-areas that flow directly into one another, and Ori can warp between locations using spirit wells. You'll once again find various new moves that give Ori greater mobility and offensive capabilities that allow players to reach new areas. Will of the Wisps introduces Spirit Shards, which grant Ori a buffer ability when equipped, and while you can only have so many activated at one time, there are several to find and some can be upgraded to be more effective. So you're bound to find shards that fit your playstyle. In keeping with its Metroidvania traditions, the game also has side quests where Ori is tasked with helping the inhabitants of Niwen, and plenty of additional content like combat arenas and time trials. I personally felt like these were unnecessary as the main quest was satisfying enough, but if you thought there wasn't enough to do in Blind Forest, this game more than makes up for it. Perhaps the biggest change, and one that was sorely needed, was fleshing out the combat. My biggest problem with Blind Forest was that fighting enemies was nothing more than a button masher until you got some of the later abilities, which didn't mesh well with the platforming. Thankfully, the combat in Will of the Wisps is much better, since on top of Ori's returning abilities, you can attack with multiple weapon types such as a sword and hammer, which each have their own combo potential. It not only creates more thrilling fights, but it complements the platforming rather than simply running adjacent to it. With Ori's new combat skills, it's easy to chain attacks and jumps together, which feels so amazing to pull off. But with the increased focus on combat, naturally comes a harder difficulty, and yes, Ori and the Will of the Wisps does not hold your hand. I wouldn't describe the game as hard overall, but there are certainly a lot of moments, especially towards the end, where it can get downright brutal. And that's fine for the most part, since many of these instances are challenging but fair, though that's not true across the board. The boss fights are a prime example, as while they are fun once you figure out how they work, it's figuring out how they work and what you're supposed to do that will aggravate you. That doesn't detract from the overall experience though, especially when the game's aesthetics are absolutely phenomenal. Blind Forest already looked great, but Will of the Wisps blows it out of the water with updated character graphics and detailed backgrounds. The artist really nailed the natural look of the game's world, as every area looks distinct from each other and is oozing with a mysterious atmosphere. And the music, once again composed by Gareth Coker, is outstanding as well, perfectly matching the theme of the levels and ramping up and down in intensity at just the right moments. Just like Blind Forest, the music helps sell the emotional weight of the story and provides the perfect background to the platforming sections. All in all, Ori and the Will of the Wisps is another fantastic Metroidvania platformer, expanding on what made Blind Forest so great and bringing in complementary features that make it a truly magnificent experience. While it loses the charming simplicity of the first game, the pure excitement and challenge the new features introduce more than make up for it. Any fan of Metroidvanias should play this game, though I'd start with Blind Forest if you haven't played it already. It's definitely worth a shot, though a word of caution. I've heard many reports of stability issues, including lag, freezing, and even game crashes. I don't know exactly what issues Moon Studios has patched out yet, but the PC version seems to have the fewest problems, so if you can, I'd spring for that version. Regardless, this is a fantastic game that should not be overlooked, whether you're a hardcore Metroidvania fanatic or a casual platformer fan, or if you just want to be mystified by a beautiful, magical game.